Good morning. My name is Rodrigo Ubiratan, and this presentation is kind of my son's fault. I have an 8-year-old son, and he's doing some kids programming classes, and they learn to do games in a lot of different tools. And unless a lot of people I've talked already, I didn't started programming to learn to do games in my old computer. So when I saw my son writing games, I decided I had to do the same. I had to learn to do a game. Okay, but why did I choose Unity3d? Unity is a free framework for building games that I can deploy the game I created to a lot of different platforms, and that seemed cool. You can write games using JavaScript or C#, and I wanted to learn a little more of C#, then I decided to give the tool a go. And more important than that, there is a lot of online videos where you can learn to use it. Okay, important question here. Who can create games using Unity or any other tool? Mostly two types of people. If you are good with code, like I think most of you are, you can write a game, no problem. You'll probably not be doing that alone. And if you can really draw and create beautiful art, you can create games, and you can write most of the object interactions with Unity without a programmer. You have both options, and the best team would be someone that has good graphical skills with someone that's good with code. Okay, but if you are only one of those, if you are really good of graphics, you can do most of the game design and hire a programmer. And if you are a good programmer, there is something that helped me a lot that's called Unity Asset Store, where you can buy graphics, you can choose some that are free. That's what I did. Of course, the ones that you pay are really better, but I was doing some tests and creating play games, so that was not a problem. Okay, that was the next slide. Can I do it alone? If you are a programmer like I am, I used a lot of assets. I have zombie images, I have space shooter images, I have the shoots for the lasers for the space shooters. There are asteroids, there are cities, there are people, and those are just free assets that I found in the Unit Asset Store. Of course, when I was looking at a free zombie and a paid one, the other was a lot better, but that was not really a problem for my tests. And what are the tools you'll need to write a game using the Unity3d? You need to download the Unity3d. You have the options to pay for the Pro version or the Enterprise version, but you can always choose the personal free. And one of the cool things is that unless you are making more than $100,000 a year, you don't need to pay for Unity. So you can create a game, sell it, and make $99,000 one year, and you still don't need to pay for Unity. Of course, if you are making that kind of money, you can pay $200 a month and have a lot better tools. But you can make a decent living without paying anything if you are able to sell your games. Unity Asset Store is really cool. You don't need to use it. You can create your own assets. You can hire someone to create the images, the sounds, anything that you'll use in your game. But the Asset Store has a lot of things, and you can just click download and import to your project. And if you are a really good designer, the Unity Asset Store is another source of income for you. You can create assets and publish there, and other developers, other game developers can use your assets to build their games. You'll need some tool to write the code. For example, I'm using Visual Studio Community. When I was writing code in my old MacBook, I was using MonoDevelop. You can download that with Unity. I was able to use Visual Studio for Mac, but it was not really working very well. It's just a beta software. But for Windows, the community version works perfectly. And this is all that you need. Of course, if you are creating assets, you need all that graphic tools that I have no idea how to work with. But that's not really my ground. And if you write a game in Unity, where will your game run? So you can, with the same code base, you can publish the game to iOS, Android, Windows, PlayStation, Xbox, Gear VR, and I don't know all that icons, but it runs in a lot more platforms than I really know. And the only difference is that when you are clicking build, you choose a different platform. All the code is the same. Of course, nothing is really multi-platform if you are really polishing your game. This will work for simple games because, for example, the first game I did as an exercise was a ball rolling game where you needed to crash your ball against tiny cubes to collect them. And the first version of that, you used your keyboard to control the ball. And I could just publish that to my cell phone, to Android or iOS, but you would not be able to play because you don't have a keyboard there in the game. So I changed the game to use the accelerometer of the cell phone to control the ball. And that was really cool, but you don't have accelerometer in your PlayStation or in your Xbox. I think you don't have in the controller, not really sure. But in the Xbox controller, you have around 10 buttons and 2 different directional controllers. And if you use those, you'll have a really hard time publishing the game to the computer. So, of course, I can publish my game to all these platforms, but you probably have to write some specific codes to each platform, and that's okay. But most of the game, you'll write one code and publish to any platform. Again, if you have really good graphics, you'll probably want to personalize, customize assets to each screen size. The Unity render engine has support for that, and you can write vector assets, and that will be okay. They will be a lot easier to fit in different screen sizes. But of course, after you do that, you can publish to all video games or all cell phones or tablets, computers, VR headsets, and they will work. Okay, but that's all cool. You are talking about Unit. What did you really learn with that? I'm a programmer for a really long time now. I've started writing software in '97. And I've never thought about materials, models, prefabs, textures, scenes. Okay, assets are common for any programming type if you use assets to develop any kind of application. But if you study the tool first, you'll have a really good, fast start. Organization is really important. You need to start creating the models, create prefabs, know what to do in the game controller. That's just another class you are programming. What code to put in each script so you can reuse that. You can, of course, create only one script to control one entire object. But in the sample I was doing yesterday, I created one small script to just move the object in the screen, and it was doing just that with a property of speed, and it controlled the player movement. And since it was doing only one simple thing, I was able to attach the same script to asteroids and flying zombies and anything, just changing the speed control. And talking about specifically about Unity3d, there are a lot of video tutorials around the web that you can use to learn, and they have a really good collection. Most of them are for earlier versions, but you can use it anyway. It's really easy to port the knowledge to another version. Okay, and how was your first game? Everybody tries to learn how to do hello world in any language you are starting. Has anyone here already created a game in any platform? No. So the first game, as I told before, is a ball rolling game that was working in the computer, and as an exercise, I've just ported it to the cell phone using the accelerometer. And with those basic samples, you learn about physics, you learn about collisions, you learn about shapes, you learn about physical objects that the platform has 5 different type of physical objects that you use to control how your object will interact with other objects in the scene. You learn about colliders. I've never thought that a physical object could not collide with another object, but in the game you you can have 2 objects occupying the same. Okay, after that first Hello World game where I learned about physics and the basics of the tool, I've started creating space shooter zombie games that's similar to River Hide. Someone had an Atari here? No? One of my favorite games in Atari was River Raid, where you were flying with some dots that were meant to be a plane and shooting other things. And I'm doing the same thing with asteroids and flying zombies that will be probably published in the next month to the app stores. Will be free because it's a really stupid game. My first published game will not be, probably not be very successful, but the thing is create a game and publish it there, and we'll have something really cool to play if someone has lucky. Once I was reading about the Angry Birds game, and everybody thinks that the company created a very successful game and made a lot of money, but that company was creating games and not making money for 10 years. So if we study one of these game creating engines and maybe create something cool, we can have luck and make a lot of money. Things that I'm using for this game are only free assets. The zombies will get a lot better in the next version, but right now I have zombies walking in space, spaceship that can shoot them, and really cool explosions. So you make points shooting zombies, and the idea is to be able to say to anyone that's playing, you got the most zombies killed in the world today for the game players, and tomorrow you can try again to make the better points. And a lot of people will have that message in a day, because after you can beat the old record, and I will not need a lot of server-side resources to do that. Okay, but what else does Unity do for me? Unity have a lot of server APIs. It will control all the physics and graphics rendering for a lot of platforms for you. And of course that's not enough, because there are other engines around that can do that. But it has multi-platform in-app purchase, where you can use it to sell new characters to your game, new levels, anything like that, that many games today nowadays have that. You have video ads. I didn't thought that video ads would be a really good thing for the developers until I saw my son clicking to watch the more videos because he wanted to unlock a new level in, I'm not sure what game was that in the cell phone, but he watches a lot of that ads. And if you develop your game right and have that ability to watch this video ad, and you'll have more points, more money in the game, more levels or anything like that. The research says, at least the research in the Unity3d website talking about the video ads, it's not really an isn't research, but it's one research, says that this kind of research pays more than any other per user per day. And looking at my son playing video games and watching the videos just to get more coins in the game, I think that might be true, because the other type of click here ads, I've never clicked on anyone, so this probably works better. Unity has a really easy to use multiplayer implementation. Of course, there are limits. If you are using the free version, you can have only 20 simultaneous users if you are using their server. But the same API can be pointed to your own server, so you can use the Unity free version and have a lot of different, a lot of simultaneous players if you use your own server through their API. After that, you can have your own user matching API, and if you are not in the free version using their servers, you can have 200, 2,000 users, depend on the amount of the plan you choose to pay. Very important thing, they have an analytics inside the platform, and the good news is you don't need to write any different code. It's inside the API. You don't need an SDK. You just need to enable it for your game, and everyone that's playing the game in the world, you'll know what they are doing with the game, what platform they are using, in which platform your game is performing better, which platform has more users, and a lot of information that you can. Of course, there is an API where you can tell the analytics, the user is doing this action, the user is doing that action, and this analytics is integrated with the video ads, so you can see which platform the users are watching more your ads. You have a lot of information from users in some platforms, age, gender, and things like that. So you can really target your game for the next versions. And there is a really good performance analysis tool that you can use to optimize the game for specific platforms. There are simulators, and all these are available for free. The only thing that has a difference if you are paying or not is the multiplayer API, that you can use their servers for up to 20 simultaneous player if you are not paying anything. So it's still a very good deal.
I tried to calibrate the smartphone. So I start application. Okay, the smartphone is calibrated. Okay. So I left the smartphone. I leave the smartphone on surface. And
Okay.
after some time,
What now? I think we'll finish this a little earlier. I didn't know if we would have questions at the end, so the 45 minutes I planned to end in 30. You can just go to unity3d.com and start building your own game. I decided to write the code in C#, but you can do it with JavaScript if you don't like C#.
after trying some math expressions.
And that's all. Thanks for your time. We can talk later about more writing games or any generic programming. Do anyone has any questions?
What happened? Okay, look at it.
No.
Here I will have the real environment, and here I will
Okay,
have
so thank you very much.